Hey guys, this is Anthony. Some of you guys know me as Q the Closer. Welcome to our webinar where we're going to learn about tactical empathy and how to close deals faster in the wholesale industry. So here's what today's training is going to look like. In the beginning, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about myself, how I got started in the industry, and kind of what we have going on now. I'm going to let you know the difference between sympathy and empathy, which is what most people get very confused on. The 4 questions that need to be answered in every single call. It's what we demand out of our closers here in our office today. Obviously, seller motivation and seller pain points. But most importantly, you need to stay to the end because I promise you we're giving out some bonuses and some free tools that will only help you guys succeed in today's wholesale real estate market. Stay to the end so you don't miss out. So, who am I? I got started in this wholesale industry about 13 years ago. I was dragged into this industry by my older brother, Alex. He was working with somebody else at that time in a smaller wholesale operation, and we gave about 3 years of our life to this gentleman, and then we decided that, hey, we think we can do this ourselves. So I moved in with my brother. We started doing real estate. Before we did it for about 5 years, and before we hired our very first person, we did 88 deals for right under $1 million, just me and my brother. Back then, it was REOs, which is like MLS properties that banks owned. It was bandit signs and handwritten letters. Today's world of real estate has changed. Everybody's cold calling. Everybody's texting. Everybody has some kind of new channel to get them sellers across the finish line. We now have an office here that we're based out of Orlando, Florida, where we have close to 20 employees. Where we teach our acquisition agents how to lock up deals virtually over the phone now. When we first started in the industry, everything was belly to belly. The thing is we couldn't scale on that model, so we had to venture out. So now we're here in Orlando closing deals in Las Vegas, in Philadelphia, in North Carolina, in Texas, in Miami, and Jacksonville. All done virtually, but most importantly, the reason we're able to do that is because we have a tremendous sales process. And our guys understand what seller motivations are, how they use tactical empathy as an advantage to make sure that they, 1, take care of their sellers, and 2, solve their problems. Our wholesale operation that runs daily is our company called Quick Cash Offer. We are a nationwide brand. We do heavy marketing throughout the United States. We're also on TV. We also have a call center in Colombia that most of you guys might have heard about. It's called Lamsu Media. Where we have a call center in Pareda, Colombia, where it has close to 200 employees over there that are cold calling motivated sellers and giving them to people like you, other wholesale companies, as lead generation. So that way you guys don't have to do the dirty work of cold calling. We also have a data company called synergydata.io. It's where I personally take my own data as well for our office, and it's the only trusted source I like to provide to other affiliates I have and friends that are in this space. And then also, because since we own everything else already, we also decided to own the title company because we do so many transactions and we're locking 30 to 40 deals a month, and we have so many people we know that are locking up so many deals. It only makes sense to also launch a title company. So that's just a little bit of what we have going on, and let's get started on tactical empathy and why you're here. So guys, before we dive deep into tactical empathy, the biggest thing I want to share with you guys is that there's not many people in this industry that have been able to do what my brother and I have done. And what I mean by that is there's guys in this space who've come from money. There's guys in this space who have millions of dollars, and they'll tell you that they made $8 million in 3 years. Some of these guys have advantages. Some of these guys were able to open up an office and hire 10 people right away and just get a game plan. That's not like most of us. It's not like most of you. The issue is sometimes we start with nothing. The reason we get into wholesaling is because the tagline is, hey, buy houses with no money. So how do you do that? How do you close people? How do you do dispo? How do you know what title is? I was fortunate enough to start off in this industry as an assistant, and my brother was doing acquisitions. In these 13-year journey, we have done every single role in our office year to date. So that way, whenever somebody in my office struggles, I know what that role's like. I've been the guy cold calling. I've been the guy closing deals. I've been the guy that has to communicate with the title company. So I want to make sure that you guys understand that what we teach you today is lessons that we have learned in the last 13 years and stuff that we're implementing still today in our office. And ideally, who is this training really for? It's for you guys. It's the guys that are brand new to the industry, the guys that are stuck on YouTube University trying to get their first deal and trying to figure it all out. It's the guy that's done one deal and trying to get his next one. Or it's the guy that has maybe a couple VAs and a very, very small team and is looking to scale his operation from 1 to 2 deals to, 3 to 5 and then 5 to 10. We want to make sure that you take the next step in your wholesale journey, because there's nothing worse than taking consistent training and not executing on it. So our goal with this training is to get you to the next step, which is most likely the hardest step, which is getting a deal under contract. But who is this training not for? It's for the lazy people, the guys that think that because they pulled a probate list that every other call is going to be closed, the guys who don't want to put in effort. Wholesaling is not easy. Can you buy houses with nothing down? Sure. Is it easy? No. It takes action takers. It takes guys with grits. It takes time. It takes discipline. Most importantly, you got to pick up the phone. So these are not for the guys that are looking to cut a corner. These are for the people who want a serious game plan to take action on. And if you're not one of those people, or you just rolled your eyes on the other side of that screen, just exit out now. This training is not for you. And for you guys at the end who want to take action, make a change in your life, get your first deal, or go from 3 to 5 deals, if you stay to the end, I will make sure that you have our personal cold call script, because I know some of you guys are cold calling yourself. We will give you the script that we use here in our office for generating cold call leads. And then we will also throw in our closer wireframe, which is what our closers, the guys who get the warm leads to close, use to convert our sellers to contracts. So stay to the end. It's very valuable. These are both scripts I use in my office today that will only help you get deals faster. So one of the biggest struggles, it took me a while in the beginning to really understand this until I got to meet a lot of sellers in the industry. I've seen a lot of nasty houses in my life, stories that would make you cringe, stories that probably make you throw up. But what you find out is these sellers go through a lot of crap. The issue is most people confuse what empathy is versus what sympathy is. For example, if someone's mother just died, and it was, let's say it's your best friend and their mom just died. Sympathy is going up to your friend and saying, I'm sorry. I hope you're okay. That's surface level nonsense. Sure, it's nice to be sorry. Sure, it's okay to give him a pat on the back and give him a hug and say, everything's going to be all right. But that doesn't really do anything for him. You're just sympathizing with his pain. Empathy gets to the root. Empathy allows you to see what your best friend's life is like in his shoes today. Because what's he feeling right now? He just lost a loved one. Did he just inherit a property? What's he going to do with that? What was his mom's responsibilities in his life, and how is he going to handle that now? Empathy is understanding, what is this guy currently going through? Empathy is reaching out to your friend and asking him, is there anything that I can do to help you in your current situation today? Because people who are empathetic realize that there's pain behind these distressful people, that these people need somebody to rely on, somebody who's helpful, not just somebody that says, hey, I'm sorry and I see you tomorrow. There's actual pain going on, and we have to understand what that pain is and what they're going through. So on the wholesale industry side, you're going to see a lot of people with pain and a lot of people you want to empathize with. So you'll have the basic list that we all pull, which is your foreclosure list, your tax liens, your probate, your divorce, evictions, and squatters. Each one of these people we can all feel sorry for, but that's not the goal. What are the people who are going through foreclosure worried about? Are they going to get kicked out of their house? Where are they going to relocate? How far behind are they? Does this affect their kids and their schooling? Like, all these questions I just asked are the questions you should be asking. Taxing is very similar with foreclosure. How far behind are they? When are they going to start repossessing the house or facing foreclosure? How come they're not paying their taxes? What's going to happen if they don't pay their taxes? Probate, we kind of just went over already, but Does it affect their family? Where do you live compared to the house? Who's managing it? Are there other loved ones involved? Like, what are these current challenges that's going to be an obstacle for this person dealing with a probate or inherited property? Divorce. That's another crazy one. Is your wife happy? Is your husband happy? Who hates who? Who's in charge? Who has the right to actually sell the house? Okay, if you want to sell, Mr. Husband, your wife lives in the property, what is she going to do? And then, of course, the lovely ones is evictions and squatters, just basic tenants. The landlords who have troubled properties. How long have you not been making money on your house? Are they doing a bunch of damage? Are they destroying the property that you bought years ago and put all that time and effort into? How long have they been taking advantage of you? These are all questions that most people don't ask. What happens is you ask them, why are you looking to sell your house? I'm going through foreclosure. My wife's divorcing me. I got shitty tenants. And your response is, yeah, well, how old's the roof? What's the AC like? Like, that person just gave you a sense of motivation and you ignored it because you're too afraid to get a little bit uncomfortable. We have to start asking the deeper questions because once you sound different, you're not going to sound like everybody else. I own properties myself. I have a tenant right now in Ocala, Florida. Lovely tenant. The property was hard for me to rent out when I first got it. I thought I was going to get a significantly higher rent, around like $1,700, and I had to settle with somebody who had a low credit score, had family and kids involved, and a very relatively small house. And I was nervous because they didn't have the best credit, but they were the only applicant I had, and it was at like roughly $200 less. But I took a shot. Around Christmas time, I got a phone call, and it was from another wholesale company saying, hey, do you want to sell this property? The thing is in my mind, I debated it because during that Christmas, I got a phone call 2 days before I got that wholesaler's call, and it was with the tenant. And the tenant reached out to me and said, hey, I might not be able to make my December payment because she just happened to do too much Christmas shopping. I was frustrated. I was sat there and I'm like, this is why I shouldn't have rented tenants with a low credit score. This is why I should have just stayed on the market. But given my circumstances at that point, I really needed to get the property rented. I had hard money involved. So I had a payment come and I'm like, do I want to sit another month making a payment to a bank or do I want to just put a tenant in there? So most of the time I have a philosophy on not selling my properties. But I got that call 2 days later from the wholesale company and I actually debated it. But the difference is that wholesaler sounded like everybody else. He didn't really care about my situation. He just asked me if I wanted to sell it and how much I wanted. But if you would have asked me more questions about what was going on with my tenant, there might have been a chance I'd be more willing to hear out an offer. But because he failed to identify even my own pain points, it's not the kind of guy I want to work with either. So keep in mind when you are talking with these homeowners that you're paying attention to what they're going through. Imagine if you were getting foreclosure letters sent to your house every day. Imagine if someone you love died and you inherited a property you had no idea that you were about to inherit. That you just got a divorce and you have kids involved and houses involved and splitting assets involved. Or you just have really shitty tenants and now you're not cash flowing. You're not making the money you thought you were going to make. And now you're paying a mortgage that you probably were expecting somebody else was going to cover. So when you're talking with these homeowners, really sit there, especially when you're pulling these lists, and I would just write down what would the fears be of this person, and I need to identify that with every single call. Now, we're going to kind of get into some of the nitty-gritty stuff on when we are talking with the homeowners and what we're trying to figure out during the call. Because, of course, as we call these people, it's not always, hey, this is my pain, tell me what's going on and figure it out. There's a process to it. So we have 4 qualifying questions that our closers need to find out before we even make an offer on the house. And you'll find that some of the tactical empathy will fall into these groups naturally. So what I like to tell my guys is there's 4 reasons or 4 things, on what we need to look for when we're talking with the seller. Why are they here? What's the problem? What have they done to try to solve it? And how can I help them? A lot of people get really stuck on the first two. The reason they get stuck on the first two is they feel like it's the same thing. Well, number two is where the tactical empathy comes in. Because why you're here is very surface level. Why they're here is what we just discussed. They're going through foreclosure. They're going through probate. They are going through a divorce. It's very surface level. There's a motivation poster that I always love to see, and people have them everywhere, where it's a big iceberg. And on top of the iceberg, it looks like very small, like maybe it's about 10 feet big. And that's surface level stuff. But if you actually look underwater, it can be about 50 feet deeper. But that's the stuff that's below the surface, the stuff that we are unaware of. So why are they here is simple. It's the list you pulled. It's the basic reason. They're like, oh yeah, I'm selling because of X, Y, and Z. Where the sauce comes in, what really makes a difference is what's their problem. What's the problem is below the surface. This is when we start asking the difficult questions to understand what that surface level problem actually is. Once we uncover that, we then like to figure out, hey, given your circumstances, let's say you have a bad tenant, your problem is you're not cash flowing and the tenant's not paying their rent. Well, what have you done to try to solve it? The reason we like to ask this is because we want to see if they have even tried anything. We might be the first person we talk to, or what extra strategies they have tried that failed, and that way I don't have to sound like everybody else. Once you figure that, now I know how to help them. And now I know their situation. Now I know they're not making money on the deal. I know that they've tried to kick the tenants out. They tried to list it with the realtor, but they couldn't get access to the property. Well, now I know how to use that pain, that motivation, to help them out and solve their problems. So for our closers, they're not even allowed to give an offer on a house without identifying these four things. And don't get me wrong, my closers make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. And when I review their calls and they wonder why they didn't close a deal, it's because they didn't have all four questions answered. They know they skipped something, or they just didn't dive deep enough into questioning with the homeowner. And most importantly, that's usually all it is. You have to uncover all of these pain points to make sure that a seller is actually ready to sell their house. So I'm going to kind of go through some potential scenarios for you guys on the what's their problem issues to kind of help you guys out and kind of see what we see on our side and what kind of questions we're typically asking for these certain clients. So the people with squatters or bad tenants, we're typically asking them, have you been making money on the property? If the tenant has been paying for 2-3 years and they've been squatting in the house, how much of that potential money have they lost in those 2 to 3 years? If they were getting $1,000 a month and making a gross profit of $12,000 a year, and the tenant hasn't paid in 24 months, well, you just lost $24,000. You're going to have some pretty high motivation. One of the big questions is, well, why haven't you kicked them out? I've heard stories of, well, the tenant's been there for 15 years and she's 78 years old and I don't know where she's going to live and I don't want to be the guy that kicks them out. These are some of the harder pressed questions that most people get a little bit uncomfortable asking because the way most phone calls I hear is, hey, do you have tenants in the property? Yes. Are they paying rent? No. Okay. Like, that's not going deep enough. This guy's a landlord. He's an investor. He's not making money on his investment. You have to poke the bear. You want to twist that knife just a little bit. We all know it's going to hurt before you pull it out. But I have to know the pain he's going through. He has to remind himself of the pain he's going through. Probate properties. Who's taking care of the property? Was there a mortgage on the house? Who's responsible for making that payment now? Are they even current with that payment? Do they have emotional attachments to the house? Were they raised in the house? Was it the house that their mother lived in for 40 years and they have some kind of emotional attachment they have to get past before they even sell it? Do they have siblings? How many? Are they the decision maker? Are you the decision maker? What kind of obstacles is this person going to go through? Because if I can't solve this, yes, we know they're here because their mom died, but what's the pain? Most people think, oh, Yahtzee, I just got this house. Probate clients are one of our biggest clients in our office today. These people don't know what to do. Some of them live in California and the house is in Florida, and they're like, yeah, you know, I didn't really like my mom, and I don't want to drive or fly 7 hours to go see it. Can you just take it off my plate? Because I don't want to deal with it. But if we're not asking the right questions, we'll never know that. Because even with probate, what I hear on phone calls is people get really shy when they hear about death. And rightfully so. It's kind of what we're taught. Someone says, hey, why are you selling your home? Well, I inherited it. My mom died last month. People freeze. They're like, oh, death. You go, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry to hear that. How much do you want? That's not what closers do. We find out what's actually going on with the probate process, who's responsible for what, and how are you dealing with it. Once you figure that out, we can better identify how we can help them. Divorce. These get tricky, guys. It's a husband and wife. They probably lived in the house together. Probably spent a lot of memories. Who gets the house? Do they both want to sell? Have they agreed on a price together? Who hates who? Who did what? Who did what to what? Do they have kids involved in all this? If the mom has the house and the kids live there and it's December, January, they trying to finish out the school year? They're just going to move during school season? Does it not matter? What's the next step? Are there attorneys involved? This is all questions we got to figure out to help people. One of the trickiest ones, probably the biggest and hardest deals, if you know how to deal with it correctly, can be extremely profitable if you know how to ask the right questions. And these are owner-occupied people. Guys who want to sell, but just have no idea where they're going. So the questions you like to ask is simply, you sold your house, where would you go? Sometimes they don't have enough money. If they're older people, like people who are retired, do you have family you can rely on if you did sell this house to go move into something else? Because if an old lady who's 75 years old has a hoarder house that's not going to be an ARV level but needs a full rehab, sometimes the biggest struggle is, well, yeah, I want to move. I want to move here, here, and here, but I just don't have the capital to do it because my house is also pretty shitty. So we like to ask them, do you have family? What does your family think about all this? Do you have support? Sometimes it could be offering services of like, hey, would you need help moving or relocating, or like who's going to help you out with all that stuff? Do you even have enough money to buy another property? Owner-occupieds can get very tricky because the biggest issue with them is, do you have something lined up? And that's what we really want to dive into. One key thing, guys, it's a very important motto we have in our office, is price is only an issue in the absence of value. And what I mean by that is when you are typically calling these sellers before you started learning what tactical empathy was, we're just shotgunning offers. We're going through like a 7-minute pitch. Hey, what's your name? What's the property details? Here's your offer. Okay, bye. I'll go walk away now. We're not bringing value. We sound like everybody else. The homeowner knows we sound like everybody else. The homeowner's like, here we go again. My roof is this, AC's this, blah, 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 blah. But once you understand what the client's actually going through and you're uncovering the motivation, the pain points, you're twisting that knife just a little bit more to help them out, you'll realize that giving value to a client, understanding them, empathizing with them, you can actually exchange that value in those discovery questions for a discount on the property. Because people do business with people they like and trust. And when you sound different from everybody else and you're having a seller even over the phone, tell you their problems and their motivations, it should be easy to ask for a discount. Now, once you understand tactical empathy, that's actually going to be like the meat and potatoes of your conversation, is really just like fact finding, using discovery questions to really understand what the seller's going through on the phone call. But you have to keep in mind that even though tactical empathy is the meat and potatoes, there's still so much more that you guys have to do when you're negotiating with homeowners. You want to make sure you have the correct intro and you have the correct tonality, that not only are you doing discovery questions, but building proper rapport, so that way you have the right to ask these discovery questions to use tactical empathy. And how to use the seller's information to uncover their pain points and their motivation. And that's essentially the biggest thing for tactical empathy. You guys have to keep one thing in mind, and this is kind of how I always relate to tactical empathy, is if you guys know how people, 911 responders who work with ambulances, is if someone gets stabbed and they have pain, when the 911 ambulance gets there, does the guy say, "Are you okay?" or "I'm sorry it happens"? No. He says, "Where does it hurt?" And then he applies pressure. We're doing the same thing, but over the phones. We're not here to say it's okay and I'm sorry. We're here to uncover motivation by asking difficult questions. That's tactical empathy. Do you think you can do more deals now? The obvious answer is yes, because I promise you, most of you guys are not using tactical empathy. Most of you guys are probably just shotgunning offers over the phone. You're cold calling, you're stuck, you're not paying attention, you've been on the phone for 2 to 3 hours, you ate a fat sandwich for lunch and you got a little lazy. We have to stay focused. You have to treat every lead the same. You have to uncover motivation. That homeowner that's on the phone call with you for 2 hours that's just yelling at you is not the guy. You did not uncover motivation to give the 2-minute conversation an offer. You didn't uncover pain, didn't uncover motivation, and most importantly, you didn't use tactical empathy to figure out what the hell is going on in his life. So the good thing is now you know a little bit more about tactical empathy. But do you guys know everything else? Do you know how to assume the sale? Do you know how to use a tie down to commit the seller to a sale? Do you even know what a tie down is? Now you locked up the contract. Can you sell it? Have you built a buyer's list? Do you know how to dispo? That's another whole sales game in itself. Do you know what a key performance indicator is, known as a KPI? Are you tracking your KPIs? If you don't know what a KPI is, it's the foundation of scaling your business. What marketing channels should you use? Which ones are the cheap ones? Which ones are the more expensive ones? What are the conversion ratios typically look like on those leads? And one of my favorite ones to teach on is, cool, you can close a deal. Did you comp it right? Did you talk to that seller for 30, 45, an hour long and not comp it correctly and you're 50K over asking? And none of the people you want to sell the deal to are interested in buying it because you didn't learn how to comp? No, you just wasted your own talent. Tactical empathy is extremely important, but it is just one piece of the tool belt. To understand wholesaling and the grand scheme of everything, you have to know it all from A to Z. You want to get an action plan. Now, I try to do these webinars as often as I can. The thing is I get people asking me all these other questions on a daily basis. From the meetups I go to my DMs, to phone calls, to texting. I don't have the bandwidth to just be everywhere all the time. The good thing is I hear you. I understand the problems. I've been there. I've been the guy that wants to skip the line. I'm not the kind of guy that just sits behind the curtains and waits for something to happen. If I can get information I need, I want it, I want it as fast as possible so I can execute and I can actually do what's important to me, which is changing my life and my current situation. With that being said, I created something for you guys. It's a community, and it's called Wholesale to Wealth. This is a group of guys, action takers. These are not the wannabes. These are not the guys that just want another course. This is not a course. This is more than a course. It is a community that has my help, my brother Alex's help, to get you that next deal, to get you from 2 to 3 to 5 to 10. This community is built on helping people like you, the guys who finished the webinar, who wrote down those notes, who took a little bit of action, that want to make sure that they have someone behind them to hold their hand to get them their next deal. In Wholesale to Wealth, you guys will get a monthly live training with myself, my brother, or one of us. We do multiple Q&As throughout our community group. You guys will get our weekly sales training. What that looks like is every day in my office, Monday through Friday, I do a sales training with my own closers in my office. I record those sales trainings and I put them in our Facebook group to you guys so you guys know what I'm saying in today's current market, whether it's going over the call recordings and fixing and critiquing my own closers on the phone so they make less mistakes. It's novation training, it's subject to training, creative finance training, going over contract training. You also get all of our contracts. So I know there's a lot of people out there that have this one and that one. They're probably not even wholesaling anymore. If you guys want a to-date contract that we use in almost all 50 states that our own office uses, we supply our contracts, our assignment contracts, any kind of contract you might need, I have it. All this is in our community. Our community is on a Facebook group where it's only members who are in the community have access to it. So it's a very small niche community where we can all help each other. I've seen guys in there help each other fix and flip houses later, wholesale each other's deals, help them negotiate with the homeowner. So our community is very involved in helping each other and making sure everybody succeeds. And when you do join Wholesale to Wealth, we'll give you an exclusive offer for the people who stay till the end, a free $100 credit to use at our data company, synergydata.io, that you can use for pulling new data and skip tracing. And just to show you guys some of our students that are succeeding right now in these groups, in our community, we have these two gentlemen here, Barry and Brandon. They just had a $50,000 assignment fee for us buying a property from them on a self-storage facility. A huge $50,000 check. These guys are also, that's not their first deal. These guys are doing now hundreds and thousands of dollars a month by implementing our processes that we have been able to teach them over time. These are probably one of our favorite students. These guys are action takers. They're absolute killers. This next gentleman in the Jersey, his name is David. David holds a special place in my heart. The reason for that is David used to be a firefighter, believe it or not. And David was making like $40,000 a year. And he was tired of it. David was looking to change his life. David tried to get a job with me, an intern, for free. We didn't allow that. Instead, we taught him. We taught him the ropes because we saw that he had the action to make things happen. David got coaching from us. David's first year, he was able to wipe out his salary just in one deal with me, replace his firefighting income with one wholesale deal. His new goal for 2024 is to do $1 million. That's what our community offers. We are changing people's lives, but we only want A players. We want the action takers. The thing about these community and these people is these guys are willing to put in the work. I'll give you the plan. I'll walk you through everything. I'll give you anything you think you might need. You'll have it ready. I just need you to take the step. Thank you guys for joining me. My name's Anthony Casada. I'm glad I could teach you a little bit more about tactical empathy today, and I hope to see you in our community, Wholesale to Wealth. Have a good day.